Why the 2020 football season is a make or break season for Kerryon Johnson. When the Detroit Lions drafted Kerryon Johnson with the 43rd overall pick in the 2018 NFL Draft, Bob Quinn and Matt Patricia figured they had just solved the problem with Detroit's rushing game. After expending a first-round pick on center Frank Ragnow out of Arkansas to pair along with fellow first-round draft pick out of Ohio State, Taylor Decker, Lions fans were ready to see a potent rushing attack for the first time in Matthew Stafford's career. Unfortunately, to this point, things have not exactly gone according to plan. The Lions saw immediate results from Johnson his rookie season as he fired out the gate strong early into the year. While taking snaps behind LeGarrette Blount, KJ only had 13 carries in the first two games combined, both losses for the team. But week 3 against the New England Patriots, the coaches decided to unleash Kerryon Johnson, and it paid dividends for the offense as he catapulted the team to our first win over Tom Brady and the New England Patriots. Kerryon took 16 carries for 101 yards, averaging over 6 yards per carry, and becoming the first Lions player to eclipse 100 rushing yards in a game since Reggie Bush in 2013. Kerryon continued to shine in the next 3 games. While the Lions failed to actually commit to running the ball under Jim Bob Cooter, KJ took 9 carries for 55 yards against the Cowboys at 6 yards per carry, 12 carries for 70 yards against Green Bay at over 5.8 yards per carry, and finally having his breakout game against the Miami Dolphins the very next week, taking his 19 carries for a career-high 158 yards at over 8 yards per carry and leading the Lions to back-to-back wins. Lions fans rejoiced at having a new feature back in Detroit. But wait, if the Lions traded up to take Johnson in the second round in the 2018 draft, then why take another back even earlier in the draft just 2 years later? Well, it all starts after the Miami game. KJ had a 3-game stretch against some tough defenses in Minnesota, Seattle, and Chicago. The Lions would lose all 3 games, and Kerryon would struggle in each. In the 3 games, Kerryon Johnson had a combined 34 carries, but failed to average more than 3.6 yards per carry in any of those games. And even though Detroit was still able to utilize Kerryon Johnson in the passing game effectively as a wide receiver, the running game would never see a slither of the success it did earlier in the year. Week 10, the Lions took the field to play the Carolina Panthers just 1 week after Johnson was able to score multiple touchdowns in the first time for his career. Kerryon was off to a terrific start in the game running the ball. He had 15 carries for 87 yards and a touchdown before suffering a season-ending knee injury late in the third quarter. Lions fans were stunned. KJ had a history of tweaks and injuries at Auburn, but he was always tough enough to play through them. I think most people were aware of the lingering shoulder injuries and surgeries in college, but KJ had no real history of knee injuries, and Lions fans, although deflated by the loss, was still excited about the future of the young back. That wasn't until 2019 happened. Nothing went right for the Lions as a team, or for Johnson as a player in 2019. The Lions brought in offensive coordinator Darrell Bevell and running back C.J. Anderson, fresh off his Super Bowl run in L.A., and promised that the 2019 year will be the year that the running the ball became the standard in Detroit. Reports had come out about quarterback Matthew Stafford playing through a broken back in the last season, and keeping him healthy was supposed to be the priority. Unfortunately, Johnson never took off how he did before the knee surgery. While still explosive and a real threat catching the ball out the backfield, KJ just never looked like the rookie back that averaged 5.7 yards per touch before the injury. In the first 3 games of the season, the Lions kept their word and handed Johnson the keys as RB1, with CJ Anderson seeing very limited playing time before he was ultimately cut early in the year. Johnson, though, will receive 48 combined carries in the Lions' first 3 games. And the Lions found a way not to lose any of the games, a tie included. But KJ wasn't the boost that he was the year before. Of those 48 combined carries, Johnson never rushed for more than 50 yards in any of the 3 games. And his yards per carry dropped all the way down from over 5 yards per rush to around 3, with him being held to 1.8 yards per carry on his then career high 20 carries. Not too many people had noticed it because Lions fans were just, too happy to be 2-0-1 after the first 3 weeks. But Kerryon had noticeably started to fall off, and it could show in that Eagles game. While he responded well the next week in the team's first loss against the Kansas City Chiefs, Johnson was again used as the bell cow, setting a new career high in carries with 26 for 125 yards, but his fumble on the goal line was returned for a Kansas City touchdown and ultimately lost his team the game. I believe it was this game that the Lions started to question if they made the right choice with Kerryon. The inconsistency in his game was starting to project more as a third down back in a rotation more than the workhouse SEC player of the year that they had drafted the year before. He didn't help his hand by taking his 13 carries the next week against Green Bay for a measly 2.62 yards per carry. Although again he was able to rush for a touchdown and catch one, it clearly was not the amount of production the Lions expected from him. Then, week 7, as KJ was off to a decent start against the Minnesota Vikings, upping his yards per carry to around 4.6 early in the game, Kerryon would leave the field with another right knee injury and would be placed on injured reserve until week 16, putting a disappointing end to a disappointing second season for the second-year back. Now, flash forward 7 months, and the Lions have drafted 2 more offensive linemen. Stafford is again recovering from another back surgery, and the Lions have drafted Georgia running back DeAndre Swift 8 spots higher than when they drafted Kerryon. Took another running back in Huntley in the 6th to pair with running back Ty Johnson as death battlers, and not to mention kept power back Bo Scarborough around for another go as well. Kerryon is only 22 years old and hopefully has a long and successful career ahead of him, but it has to start now. Johnson is now in the 3rd year of his rookie contract, and if he doesn't succeed this season, and Swift and another back have successful seasons while he's nursing more injuries, and the Lions could save about $600,000 in cap space by cutting him at the end of next year. And I think that would be a terrible ending for Johnson in Detroit. But it doesn't seem like the Lions are willing to take any chances on this one. Swift, while a more compact back, has all the same tools that make KJ a promising back. Their vision out of the backfield and elite pass-catching ability make these guys both formidable. But unlike KJ and his 4.54 pro day 40-yard dash, Swift is known to be a burner with a 4.48 40-yard dash at the NFL Combine. Swift packs all the features of Kerryon Johnson in a more compact and powerful punch. If DeAndre Swift unseats Johnson as the number 1 back at any point in the season, the writing may be on the wall for an early exit for Johnson from Detroit. If I'm Kerryon, I'm spending less time on Twitter and traveling with my girlfriend on Instagram, and I'd be a lot more focused on preparing myself for the most important football season of my career. The one huge difference I see in Swift and Johnson is that Kerryon seems like he's just happy to be here. He's a pro now. Football is his job, and he's content. Has anybody seen anything from Kerryon Johnson to say that he has that Mamba mentality? I personally think not. I don't see it in his character. He's more nonchalant. He doesn't give me the sense that he takes his failures on the field personally. And while I won't condemn him for it as a human, I will keep that in mind when comparing him to a player like DeAndre Swift. You see, DeAndre Swift absolutely has that Mamba mentality. Since being drafted, he has done nothing but get to work. His father is a bodybuilder that coined his own gym after the Swift last name. Swift is out right now with Matthew Stafford learning the playbook and establishing chemistry on the field. Even Isaac Nada is there. Meanwhile, Kerryon Johnson is seen uploading pics on the beach with his girlfriend. In conclusion, I just hope something clicks in Kerryon's head and he finds that dog mentality. Because if not, he may go down as an even worse second round pick than ex-cornerback Tease Tabor. That wouldn't strike well for Bob Quinn in the draft. So hopefully, with all this COVID-19 stuff that's going on in the world, Kerryon Johnson can find somewhere to nurse his body, get stronger, get healthy. He only had 11 reps at the NFL Combine when he came out, and that was the worst among all running backs that he came out with. He was already dealing with the shoulder injuries, and now he's added 2 knee surgeries onto that as well. If a setback comes for Kerryon Johnson's shoulders or knees, I think this might be the last year for him in Detroit.